What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Internal Leverage Podcast. My guest today is Sana Badhwar, and she is a human design NLP mentor, hardwired to get you passionately aligned with your life, confidently closing clients in your business, and manifesting more joy. Sana works with a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners and has a very interesting and unique way of working with people to get them in alignment with their sort of natural tendencies and bring that forward in order to create massive amounts of success. I'm super excited to have Sana here today. So Sana, welcome.
Thanks so much, Abe. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited for us to dive in. I can speak about human design all day, every day. So you have to actually probably push the stop button when you're moving to the next question. But I love this stuff. So I'm super excited.
Okay. Well, let's just dive right into it. We only really spoke once before and we had such a powerful conversation. I was like, oh my God, like people need to be part of this. So let's just dive right into human design because I think that's new for a lot of certainly our listeners and for a lot of people. What is human design and how can we use it? Like, why should we care basically?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you I'm going to tell you a little bit about what human design incorporates, but I'm not going to give you the traditional, boring definition. I'm actually going to put it into place for us so we can actually figure it out with oh yeah, that's going to stick now.
Right.
So human design incorporates 5 different modalities: quantum physics, astrology, the Hindu chakra system, the Kabbalah system, and the Chinese I Ching. So it's all
Is
of
that all?
those. Right? Can you believe it? And that's why it's actually so accurate in helping us determine how we're functioned to thrive. So whatever our hardwiring is, right? It's not going to match someone else's hardwiring. So that takes us right into the definition that I'm going to use, which is like when you look at your phone, like your iPhone, and you look at someone else who has an Android. The iPhone and the Android each have their own operating system, right? And you also look at the way your iPhone is going to be totally different from my iPhone. Because when I pick up your iPhone, I'm not going to recognize it. I'm not going to know the passcode. I'm not going to know the apps you use. It won't make sense for me. Exactly like that. Each one of us has our own operating system, but we also have our own sets of apps that are loaded onto our software. So effectively, what happens is when we use our phones in a certain way, we optimize them to the strengths that we have. That's how we're showing up in the world. We have activations, we have certain apps, if you will, that give us certain strengths over other people, and other people have certain strengths over us. But why is it like that? Why is it that you have your specific iPhone and I have my specific iPhone? Because we're a human race, right? Foundationally, we're designed for community. Doesn't matter if you're an introvert and you like more alone time versus an extrovert who needs to be around people a lot. Foundationally, we are community based and we thrive and we grow through further social interaction, right? Which is why I would seek a mentor, or which is why you would seek a mentor. It's because that person just knows a little bit more and I am curious to absorb their knowledge so I can elevate. We elevate through social interaction. Just like that, our human designs are designed in such a way, for lack of a better word, to allow us to coexist so we can thrive. Because if we were all the same, we would have nothing to be able to learn from somebody else. We would not be able to take away anything from our interactions. We would not be able to give. We would all be homogenous. And that's not an ideal society to be in. So that's the beauty of human design. It invariably develops empathy within us so that we can coexist.
Interesting. I was just reading the other day about how some people feared Myers-Briggs when it first came out because this was like around World War II and Nazi Germany. And so this idea of if we start classifying people, well, then some class might say, hey, our class is the best and you guys suck. And it might become like a sort of totalitarian situation. But I love that the intention is actually should create distinctions such that we can gain and learn from each other. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
aside from the potential to learn and to grow, let's dive a little bit deeper into human design. Like, what are the different sort of I guess, are they personality types? Like, what are the different operating systems, and what can we learn from them?
Yeah, I love this. So we've got 5 different types, right? Of which 2 are generator types. But let's take this a little bit further back. When the system was first received. Now this is where we're going to go a little bit woo woo. But I will bring that back down to earth for us, because that's where, like, anchoring it back to reality is where I really thrive. So essentially, Ra Uru Hu, or Alan Robert Krakauer. Ra Uru Hu is his human design name. But Robert Alan Krakauer, when the system was derived, he actually received it as a voice in his head. He received it as a voice in his head that basically told him to go and do this, to go and create this system whereby we as humans would be able to understand more about ourselves. So effectively, when it first came out, he had only 2 distinctions. It was the manifestor type and the others. Since then, of course, it has gotten a lot more sophisticated. It has evolved. We now have 5 types. But before that, the reason why he only had the manifestor type and other, and another really important distinction to make here, is just because a certain type has manifest baked into the type name doesn't preclude anyone from being able to actually manifest what they want. I'm a pure generator. I'm manifesting all day, every day, faster and faster and faster since following my human design. But bringing it back, the 5 types, the reason why manifestors were separated from the others is because manifestors are the only type that actually are able to receive what's called the internal nonverbal creative flow and act on it right away. Every other type, all the other 4 types, have to actually wait for external validation of their internal inspiration. So let's put that into context. A manifestor wants to go on vacation because they're burnt out and they're tired. They can go and book a flight right away, and energy would align for them in doing so. Generator, this is now, we're going into the other types. You've got the 4 other types, which are 2 generator types: manifesting generator and generator. Then you've got projector and reflector. The generator types, burnt out, tired, want to go on a vacation. If we did that, go and book a vacation right away, there's a high likelihood that some part of our energy is going to cause friction. It's going to cause resistance. Same with a projector, same with a reflector. There's going to be resistance because, and here's how the resistance can show up. You go, you book the vacation, but then your spouse doesn't want to go because your spouse isn't ready to go. Or you go and book the vacation and then your boss lands on you with, hey, actually this huge project's coming up and I actually want you to be a pivotal part of it. And you're like, oh shit, I just booked my vacation. What am I going to do now? Or you end up not being able to get the flight that you want, or you end up not being able to get the booking or the reservation that you want. A ton of different things can get in the way. For generator types specifically, it's because their auras and their energies are very large, and you have to wait for that calibration. What I teach my clients to do is how to understand how that calibration is happening, regardless of your type. So that's the 5 types in a nutshell. And that's the difference why a manifestor versus other was the first distinction that was originally created. But now, fortunately, we have the full 5, and we're able to understand ourselves and our energetic natures a lot better.
Okay, got it. I mean, so I love to be the bridge between New York and LA, between woo woo and what's concrete, right? And I can go full woo woo, but for our audience who maybe they don't quite understand or quite hear this idea of looking at energies or auras or anything like that, is it basically like you're helping people to really understand timing in their life and how to make decisions that are more in alignment with their own nature? I mean, how would you describe it?
Very simplified, yes. I am teaching you how to understand timing. Because human design is a little bit more complex, just a little bit more. There are sometimes like layered there are aspects and layers that require further clarification so that the timing can then become very crystallized, very clear, very easy to almost mold. We're almost time bending, but when you understand what those particular aspects are, what those layers are that allow you to break through towards actually time bending, that's when it starts to get a lot more clear. So what are those layers, right? Strategy. Strategy is understanding that you, as a projector, because if you're a projector, as a projector, you are designed to wait for the invitation. That's your strategy. Your authority, though,
drives me crazy. As I'm sure it does most projectors.
And you know what? For any of the responding types, any of the types that actually have to wait, basically anyone other than the manifester, I have heard this feedback so often. Oh, I hate having to respond. I hate having to wait for the invitation. Drives me crazy. I hate having to wait for reflectors. It's a 28-day lunar cycle. It's nuts. I have learned to love it. I have learned to crave it. And it's not even something that I necessarily had to learn so much as to love. I had to learn how it supported me. And then when I learned how it supported me, by definition, I loved it because it just made life easy. It put me in integrity with my energy, as opposed to two horns locking as opposing forces. I'm now cocooned inside the safety of my energy. And I know that now my energy is just like a big warm hug around me. So whenever I'm moving through the world, there's no resistance. There's no weird push and pull. If it happens in a day, yeah, like we're human, it's going to happen. And another really interesting thing to note just on that is that when we look at astrology traditionally, right, we're looking at astrology, we're looking at all these planets that are circling around the sun. And it's almost like a very, very almost super predictable that Mercury is going to move around the sun. Earth is going to move around the sun. Everything's just moving around the sun. Whereas when you look at human design, all those planets move through the body. So it's not a nice circular, predictable motion. It's actually very sometimes erratic, but it's moving through your body. And being able to cue into that and to understand what your alignment can be on a certain day, what your alignment is supporting you to do over a certain period of time that you may not have understood in the past, or you may not have been able to rationalize. This is part of the anchoring back to the reality. Even though we're taking a little bit of the woo-woo, we're bringing it back into the science of our bodies, which is being able to navigate those astrological currents as they move through our bodies and how they're activating our strengths, weaknesses, or other aspects where we need more support, or we're getting more support where we didn't have support. Effectively, it's two charts: your birth human design chart, and it's the chart where you have the just now chart. I don't necessarily support looking at your just now chart every single day to make decisions. But if there's a day where you're feeling just particularly off kilter, look at what that just now chart is saying to you. Get the help of somebody who can help you read and decipher what's happening in that just now chart. For example, I had something happen to me with my just now chart where I'm an empath, so I don't necessarily have emotional authority, but my emotional center, my solar plexus, was lit up in a big way because of what was taking place astrologically. And so I'm feeling these super unfamiliar waves of emotion, and they're all mine. And I'm so used to being able to say, is this mine? And usually it's not, and letting it go and moving forward. But I wasn't able to do that. They were all mine. And it was driving me nuts. But having the awareness, understanding why that was driving me to eat. And because of the presence of a certain planet, so Jupiter being there actually drives you further to want to crave food. It can create this eating disorder type of situation. In my case, a milder form of just constantly thinking about food in that particular period of time. gave me the awareness to say, okay, this is why you're wanting food. Now you don't need it as much as you feel you do. So that type of awareness. And then, of course, we still have the other layers, but I'm not going to go into those, all of them. But I think because the most important two are strategy and authority, there's a ton more. We've touched on the astrology as well, but there's a ton more that goes into it. So when you understand that, and then you're moving cocooned by your energy safely, you're starting to bend time and manifest in your favor, create every day in your favor.
Got it. Beautiful. Well, I mean, this is the reason why we're having this conversation, this concept that internal leverage, the name of this podcast is about what are the things that we can do internally with our thoughts, our feelings, our awareness, our knowledge to reduce resistance, right? To create greater leverage such that we don't have to move as much to create greater levels of impact. So I'm curious to translate this conversation. I mean, it's fascinating stuff, and it sounds like it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. But to translate it for our audience as a sort of rudimentary introduction to human design, how can people in business, since it's mostly business owners and entrepreneurs who listen to this, how can our listeners leverage this or find, I guess, the inspiration, motivation to seek somebody like yourself out to interpret their chart? Like, how would somebody know if they're coming, if they're making decisions that are out of alignment with their true nature? Are there indicators?
Yes. So it's traditionally when you're acting in your not self theme. So each different human design type, right? So the manifestor, the reflector, the projector, and the two generator types, manifesting generator and pure generator. Each of them has a not self theme. So whenever you are behaving out of integrity, you will have these following responses most commonly. For the manifestor who's not able to honor their internal nonverbal creative flow, it's traditionally manifesting as, or typically manifesting as, anger. I am so mad right now. All I wanted to do was this thing, and I was interrupted by this. I was sidetracked by this. I was pushed into this other thing I didn't want to do, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. That's how you recognize it for the manifestor, anger. Then you've got the projector, bitterness. I have so much to share. I wanted to give my wisdom. I wanted to give my love. I just wanted to pour into this person. Door slammed in my face. What does that do? Makes me bitter. Makes me very, very bitter. And I'll say this, as a generator with 3 projected channels out of 4 channels inside of my human design, I have always felt so much like a projector. So I often hit the bitterness door. So that happens to me too, even as a generator. So that's a really interesting nuance, little bit more of a layer there for you. The reflector. Reflectors will often feel disappointed. They'll feel disappointed. They'll feel let down. They'll feel like their expectations just weren't met. Even if the expectations were super high or super low, doesn't matter. Typically that manifests as disappointment for the reflector. And then for the 2 generator types, with manifesting generators, there's an additional nuance. But for generators, pure generators, it's frustration. I just wanted to do this. I just wanted to do this. And why isn't it working out? Kind of like the vacation example we used before. I'm so burnt out. I'm so tired. Why can't I just book this vacation without any interruptions? Why does my boss need me now? Why does this need me now? Why do I have to experience this? That's the frustration. Or why does this client not get it? Fortunately, I haven't had clients like that. So grateful. And then you've got the manifesting generator. Because of their manifesting nature, they have a little bit of that. They share that internal nonverbal creative flow with the manifestor. They can feel both anger and frustration. So for them, it's recognizing the anger and the frustration. So that's typically when someone will be able to recognize when they're out of integrity with their energy. And if this is happening, and usually it is, more and more and more on a repeated basis over anything, that's when you know you kind of need to start looking for some support. You need to look for not just I need this strategy to optimize this situation to have this outcome. It's a little bit deeper. It's a little bit more nuanced. It's a little bit more, I would say, subtle. Why does this keep happening to you? It may not be in the process of the optimization. And if you try to optimize it, do you know if you're optimizing it in the right way so that it's supporting you to keep moving forward? A lot of us are grasping sometimes at concepts. We're grasping at like, maybe this will be the thing. Maybe this will be what helps me. Maybe, but we don't always know for sure. Human design is just giving you the map. It's saying, yeah, like it's right here. Stop going around the bend. It's right here. Use this and see this. Do this and see this outcome. It can be linear. It can be that linear because I've experienced it. So I speak from personal experience. I speak from a place of the lived example of seeing linear results from following my human design.
How does this sync up with neuro-linguistic programming, which is your other specialty as well? Because it's funny, I was just today listening to somebody speaking about NLP and talking about the way that NLP works with our nervous system and how NLP is a form of I guess a handbook, for this is how your body works, how your mind works, and this is how to use strategies to be more successful in life. So how do the two sync up nicely?
Yeah, so I feel so privileged to be able to actually have these two modalities through which to support, because they are very synced. They are very synced. So in human design, we have this process of deconditioning. And in NLP, we have these processes of reprogramming. So in human design and in NLP, the overall arc is very similar, which is we have been brought up in this life with conditioning. We've been brought up in this life with someone else's rule book to a large extent. Do it this way. Do it this way. Follow this path. Don't follow this path. Don't make this mistake. Learn from my mistakes. Follow this person. Don't follow this person. Be a good person, etc., etc. So many should do's. And what that has done is it has taken us away from our innate wisdom. It has taken us away from what we truly could be if we had not been conditioned in any way at all. If no one had given us the rule book of this is how you ought to live life. And they had just allowed us to make our mistakes, and they had just allowed us to be who we are. The likelihood is that we would all be very deconditioned, living on our human design intuitively. And as a result, we may not even need a lot of the NLP that we so need today. But what NLP does is it actually supports in the deconditioning. It actually supports in the releasing of those mental barriers that create further conditioning inside of the centers that live inside of our bodies, right? So effectively speaking, with the 9 energy centers that live in our body, along with the neuro-linguistic programming, you're combining this powerful mindset tool with the regular deconditioning of these energy centers in our bodies so that we're now operating like a well-oiled machine. So if my client comes to me and they say, Sana, I just don't think I can achieve this. And this has happened where my client says, oh, I don't like to sell. I don't like to sell at all. I'm looking at her chart and I'm like, you have the wiring of a salesperson. I know this because I have it. And I know this because I used to consistently exceed my targets in my sales role prior to this. So I know you have it. What I then do is she says, well, why can't I sell? And I'm like, it's so simple. It's because you have a subconscious relationship to an event that took place in your life previously that has conditioned you to believe that you do not have the ability to sell. So when we released that through neuro-linguistic programming, And we deconditioned those energy centers in her body that truly support her to be able to run her business effectively and sell more. She was able to actually start selling. It was that simple. She was able to sell more. And we unlocked some of the key parts of that wiring to show her, this is how it starts to support you. This is how it will always support you, no matter what. Even if you don't ever want to sell, you will probably sell and you'll do it well. So it's always going to be part of you. And here was the subconscious limiting belief that was holding you back. So that's how they support each other. I'm a very long-winded answer.
Yeah, no, beautiful. So it just sounds like a more robust way of working with people and charting a path to their success.
Exactly. It's holistic, right? It's like, I'm not just going in with, here's a human design and here's how to tackle it. We're actually doing the mindset work that combines with it, and we're putting you in the incubator of essentially whatever your vision of success truly is.
Right. Beautiful. Well, I have no doubt that we could, jam for the next 3 hours talking about this. But
sure.
Where can people find you? Do you have any, anything online that gives people more information or gives people an avenue to get in touch with you?
Yes. So I'm on Instagram. It's my first and last name, Sana Badhwar. At Sana Badhwar, you can find me there, and you'll see Human Design Empath there. I just call myself Human Design Empath because I'm an empath. So I feel other people's emotions all the time. And I'm obsessed with human design. So you'll always be able to find me with those keywords at Sana Badhwar on Instagram. And now, Abe, I don't know, you mentioned that you're going to publish this about a month out, and you can edit this out if you want, this piece.
All right. So, and just for people who are listening audio only, Sana Badhwar, Sana, and then last name Badhwar. And
that's right.
If people want to reach out to you on Instagram and just say Internal Leverage Podcast, you have a free gift. Is that right? That you can send them?
That's right. Yeah. I'm going to shoot you all my 5 mistakes preventing you from your abundance by design. I will shoot that guide over to you if you say you came from Abe's podcast.
Nice. Love it. All right, great. This is amazing. And this is really great. And it's powerful stuff. It's, something I'm obviously very interested in, and I loved connecting with you. And I just thought it was a perfect fit. Is there anything else that we haven't covered in this interview that you think the listeners need to hear this piece? Anything else that you feel like you want to share before we wrap up here today?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. I think the first thing is when we hear about human design, it's not necessarily always intuitive. And I think our first instinct is like, what is this? But I want to encourage you to follow that rabbit hole, because it will be a rabbit hole. But when you hit a certain point at which you're just like information overload, recognize that and seek out support, seek out help, even if it means sitting with somebody for one reading. Get your information, learn more about who you are, because I have always been I've subscribed to the ideology that the further we go within, the further we go outside. So learning more about yourself can only ever support you. And last but not least, like my mantra for human design is always magical yet practical. That's always the mantra I use, because there's so much magic. If we believe in manifestation, if we believe in abundance, and if we believe in being able to have the things that truly matter to us, then we also have the ability to learn more about ourselves and turn that magic into practicality, to start having it rather than hustling, hitting burnout, and struggling. So that's what I wanted to share.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Sana, thanks for taking the time and joining us today. Great having you.
Thanks for having me. I loved it.